Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the vital science and strategies behind not just surviving emergencies, but actually preventing them. Because let's be real, in a world full of unexpected extremes, we don't just have to sit back and cross our fingers, right?
So let's dive right into this big question. It's super common to think that disasters are entirely unpredictable, that we're just completely at the mercy of the elements. But we're shifting that perspective today. We really need to move away from seeing these events as unavoidable, random tragedies and start treating them as manageable risks. Sure, we can't stop every single hazard, but we absolutely have the power to control our bettiness. When we talk about disasters, we usually focus on the immediate physical damage. But the true anatomy of a disaster, it lies in the systemic disruption. It's not just the broken buildings. It's that sudden influx of chaos that completely paralyzes essential services, halts the economy, and turns normal, everyday life totally upside down.
Moving right along to Section 1, Nature versus Human Error.
We naturally tend to fear the uncontrollable forces, right? The massive floods, sudden earthquakes, severe storms. But a huge chunk of disaster risk is actually human-induced. We're talking about industrial oil spills, major fire outbreaks, and the catastrophic yet entirely preventable impacts of illegal mining. While we literally cannot stop the earth from shaking or a storm from brewing, these human-induced tragedies, those are entirely preventable errors.
Next up, Section 2, the devastating ripple effects. It's pretty fascinating how interconnected these underlying causes are. We constantly hear about massive, global issues like climate change escalating our risk, but actually, it's often the hyper-local human actions that pull the trigger. Just dumping refuse into drains or carelessly logging forests can instantly turn a heavy downpour into a deadly, unmanageable flood. When the environment is degraded, our own local actions can either protect us or put a giant target on our backs. And when a hazard meets a vulnerable community, well, the ripple effects are staggering. It's like a terrifying domino effect. The immediate tragedy of injuries and deaths quickly leads to widespread homelessness. Then, with crucial infrastructure like hospitals destroyed, recovery stalls out completely. This opens the door for secondary disasters. Think severe disease outbreaks and massive economic losses that can literally paralyze a region for decades.
Which brings us to Section 3. Science, the ultimate shield.
So, the real game changer here is disaster risk reduction, often referred to as DRR. This is all about taking proactive, scientific, and highly practical steps way before the worst happens. DRR helps communities become safer and significantly more resilient. It's that essential mindset shift from just waiting for the rescue boats to actually building proper drainage systems and planting trees long before the rain ever starts falling.
But you might be wondering, how exactly do scientists and emergency responders foresee these chaotic events before they actually strike? I mean, if a disaster is literally defined as a sudden event, how on earth do we get a head start?
Well, we essentially build a technological shield around ourselves. We rely on weather satellites and radar to track storms from space and use highly sensitive seismographs to catch the subtlest geological shifts. We even deploy drone mapping and geographic information systems, or GIS, to map out flood risks in real time. This keeps engineers and emergency teams at least one step ahead of the danger.
Just take Japan's early warning system as a prime example of this science in action. It actually detects the initial, faster-moving seismic waves seconds before the destructive shaking hits. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but a 10-second head start, that is absolutely the difference between life and death. It gives people just enough time to drop, cover, and hold on. Scientific prediction saves lives. Plain and simple. Let's move on to Section 4. Community preparedness saves lives.
This brings up a pretty critical question. Why not just focus on building better rescue teams? Well, in emergency management, it's a known fact that every single dollar spent on proactive planning and early warning systems saves drastically more money and, more importantly, lives, compared to funding reactive rescue ops after the destruction is already done. A community that plans ahead will recover faster, reduce their overall losses, and just stand so much stronger against future threats.
Translating all this abstract science to the ground level requires a really clear sequence. You map out the hazards, you lock in safe evacuation routes, you stockpile emergency kits, and you drill, drill, drill. Look, when chaos hits, cognitive thought goes right out the window. Practicing these responses ensures that muscle memory takes over to save lives. And executing these plans on a large scale,
That requires incredible teamwork. For example, in places like Ghana, disaster management is coordinated primarily by NADMO. That's the National Disaster Management Organization. It's a deeply integrated network. NADMO works directly alongside the fire service, police, armed forces, ambulance, and health services. Together, this whole coalition manages preparedness, conducts emergency response, and coordinates relief ops. It's the whole shebang.
And we know for sure this exact blueprint works. There's this one remarkable case study during severe regional flooding, where a local school faced rapidly rising waters. But panic never set in. Why? Because the learners had actively run these exact drills, so they knew their safe paths and assembly points. The result was a massive reduction in injuries and a totally swift rescue. It's a direct victory for disaster education.
Okay, final section. Number 5, your role in emergencies.
Disaster risk reduction isn't just some job for the government. You are the ultimate safety ambassador. The actionable steps here are immediate. Lock down those emergency contacts in your phone today. Respect warning signs, and definitely avoid deceptive hazards like moving floodwaters. Report blocked drains or exposed wires the second you see them. And most importantly, step up during your workplace or school drills and teach others to do exactly the same.
I really want to leave you with this powerful 3-part rule of thumb to carry forward. Prepare early, stay calm, act safely. As we've seen today, with scientific monitoring, careful planning, and coordinated community teamwork, we are never truly helpless. The tools and the knowledge are out there. So the final, provocative question you have to ask yourself is this: when the early warning sounds, will you and your community be ready to act on it? Thanks for joining this explainer. Keep learning and stay safe out there.